Hi, and welcome to a Sense of Wellness podcast, inspiring and empowering a healthier you. I'm your host, Susan Greeley, and I'll be diving deeper into the 4 pillars of wellness: sleep, exercise, nutrition, and stress management. Today, I'm excited to have a conversation with a celebrity nutrition doctor about diet matchmaking and eradicating obesity. I believe that sounds much more interesting than preventing and reversing chronic metabolic disease through lifestyle medicine, which is really what our goal is. I'm honored to have Dr. Michael Dansinger with me today to share a wealth of knowledge and experience as a nationally recognized expert in nutrition and lifestyle coaching. He published a well-known clinical trial that compared the effectiveness of 4 popular diets, the Atkins, Zone, Weight Watchers, and Ornish diets back in 2005, and it demonstrated there are many effective eating strategies rather than one best diet for everybody. Dr. Dansinger is a member of the Division of Endocrinology, Diabetes, and Metabolism at Tufts Medical Center in Boston, where he directs a diabetes reversal program that he founded in 2006. He has been a nutrition, diabetes, and obesity expert for WebMD for more than 15 years, and he led their online diabetes community for 5 years. As far as his celebrity status, Dr. Dansinger was the nutrition doctor for NBC's The Biggest Loser show for over 10 years and helped create the Biggest Loser diet and book series based on that show. He serves on the annual Best Diets judging panel for U.S. News and World Report. Dr. Dansinger was medical director of the Boston Heart Lifestyle Program, also for more than 10 years, where he developed innovative methods for ultra-personalized nutrition plans, and those have been used by more than 100,000 patients. He has been interviewed by the Today Show, Dateline NBC, CNN, The Wall Street Journal, USA Today, National Public Radio, and over 100 other media outlets. I am really thrilled to have him here with me today. And Dr. Dansinger, I just want to say, with all that, thank you for joining me.
I'm thrilled to be here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
I know you are, and I am too, because we love talking about all of this. So we live in an obesogenic culture, unfortunately, and you and I are dedicated to changing that. That is for sure. I know how passionate you are about being a lifestyle medicine physician. So I do want to start by just asking you, how did you choose this path?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Susan. So I've been a physician for over 25 years, and I used to practice primary care internal medicine, and I trained in Minnesota. And at that point, I wanted to get away from the cold weather. And I became a traveling doctor for 3 years to not just get good weather, but to see what kind of doctor I wanted to be. And I went to every corner of the United States. And what I saw was the same problems throughout the United States, where patients were not happy because they felt like they didn't have good quality relationships with their healthcare team. They barely knew their doctor and their health team and were dissatisfied with very short visits. The healthcare providers, the doctors weren't satisfied. They felt like they had to see too many patients in a day, and hospitals and clinics felt like they weren't able to have a profitable business unless they forced patients and doctors to have very short visits. And it looked like the healthcare system was broken. And I decided that I wanted to become the type of doctor who's going to make an impact on the medical system in general. Let's treat the country as the patient. And the health of the United States is impaired by all of these lifestyle diseases. And so I wanted to become a lifestyle doctor. So the obesity and the heart disease and the diabetes and related conditions are making the United States as a country sick. And so we need to figure out how the healthcare system can do a better job at helping people help themselves. And that's why I became a lifestyle medicine doctor. And that's why I went to Tufts Medical Center in Boston to learn how to do research and to practice academic medicine and to do what I can to help the system do a better job.
Mm-hmm. And reach people on a broad scale. I know that's
exactly
a goal of yours and mine. Yeah. And how both of our paths somehow led to Tufts and to studying nutrition in Boston, which I love and want listeners to know that.
Yeah, Tufts is a great place to learn about nutrition and how to make a global or national impact.
Amen. Absolutely. We're working on it. You and I are both still working on it because there's a lot of work to be done. And just to the research aspect, this is really important that studying the science of nutrition. And obviously, and you did this really excellent study on diets. And we do know from that and in general that no one diet fits all. Fad diets are a diet trap. That said, when you conducted that Tufts popular diet trial, were you surprised by any of the results? Tell us a little bit about some of the specific observations and results of that.
Yeah, thanks for asking about that. So when I decided I wanted to get into lifestyle medicine, and this was back in around the year 2000, I wanted to know what's the best diet. And in those days, low carb diets like the Atkins diet were really catching on like wildfire and were really hitting a peak. And I was concerned and surprised that there was such a disconnect between the public interest in low carb diets versus what was known from a research standpoint. And so I wanted to sort of bridge that gap and study low carb diets and compare them to other more well-established eating plans. And so at Tufts, as a research fellow, I had the opportunity to conduct a randomized trial to compare the effectiveness of these 4 diets, the Atkins, Zone, Weight Watchers, and Ornish diets. And we randomly assigned 160 people with heart disease risk factors to one of those 4 eating plans. And we did blood testing along the way. And I worked with another coach to teach the eating plans. And so one day I was telling people to eat a lot of carbs and not a lot of fat. And the next day I was telling them the opposite, eat a lot of fat, but not a lot of carbs. And what we found at the end of 1 year was that it was a 4-way tie. And all of the eating plans had a similar effectiveness in terms of weight loss and improving waist circumference and cardiovascular risk tests. So the blood tests for cholesterol and blood sugar and insulin and blood pressure all improved to the same degree, regardless of the diet type. Not only that, but all of the eating plans were similarly difficult to follow. So all of the eating plans had a gradual loss of dietary adherence over time to a similar extent. And so this symmetry between all of the different eating plans was new. No one had seen that before until we did this research study. And what we learned from that research study was that there are many good eating plans. There's no one best diet for everybody, but you have to follow your plan closely. And the more closely you follow your plan, and I would say 90% strictness is where patients really need to be to see substantial changes, improvements in their weight and their cardiovascular risk factors. And so it's easy to say you need to stick 90%, but it's very hard to do for most people. And that's where coaching comes in. It's hard to be your own police. But when you work with someone who can provide structure, accountability, and practical information, that's when people can really stick to their plan. And that's when we see the magic happen.
It's exactly what I say on a daily basis. And we know this. We know this after so many years of experience. And that actually kind of takes me to my next question, but you also read my mind. I wanted to say that ongoing support is the key to sustained weight loss. It is really the key to getting rid of, as I said, eradicating obesity in this country, right? We do need to support each other. We'll say it in that sense too. But to my next question, you had the chance to do that. So let's talk a little bit about The Biggest Loser show, which was so popular. And you saw people have these dramatic weight loss journeys. Their stories were incredible. And it just made me think of that, as my next question when you're saying the coaching, that ongoing, how do you adhere to something? But in any case, tell us all about your experience working on The Biggest Loser.
Yeah. So most people have heard of The Biggest Loser, but for those who haven't, it was a primetime television show, reality show on NBC that started around 2005 and went till about 2016 and then came back on a different network in 2020. But I was with the show as their nutrition doctor for a decade. And I think they found me in the first place because of the popular diet study at Tufts, and they knew I had experience in different eating plans. And Tufts was well known already to the producers of The Biggest Loser show. One of them was an alum. So I was sort of in the right place at the right time, and it was a good fit for my career. And reality TV shows were just starting to become known in those days. And so I was sort of agreed to sort of roll the dice on an unproven reality show. And I'm glad I did. So it was not a major part of what I did on a week-to-week basis, but it was the most exciting thing that I was doing at that time. And I worked with the producers as a consultant to help them design the aggressive weight loss methods. And the show had teams of people competing for the greatest amount of weight loss over a 6-month period. And I helped design methods for aggressive weight loss and how you keep that aggressive weight loss safe and how do you monitor and make sure people are losing weight in a responsible, safe way. So I was involved in all of that and helped them with how do you convert what was happening on the TV show into reality so that people could follow the Biggest Loser diet and make recipes and, kickstart their own weight loss journey at home. So it was really exciting work for a decade. And the lessons learned from that show, and people would typically lose about 100 pounds over 6 months on average. But the Biggest Loser show was sort of what I call an anti-obesogenic environment. It was perfectly designed to help people leverage the power of lifestyle. And that's what people liked. They found it inspirational. It was a weekly reminder to the viewers that lifestyle change is powerful if only you can harness it. And if you can stick to an eating plan 100%, and if you can exercise 30 hours a week like they did on the show, you can lose 100 pounds in 100 days. Now, no one expects that to happen in their own life, 100 pounds in 100 days. But if you could figure out how to take home a little bit of the Biggest Loser to fight against the obesogenic environment that surrounds all of us. That's, again, something that is worthy of effort. And so the Biggest Loser show was a reminder that those of us at home who want to take steps forward on their health can really do it if only we can learn how to make our own personal anti-obesogenic environments.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And for those who did see it, I know that that's like an insider view on what was going on behind the scenes. It's intense and that's not for everybody, that type of weight loss. That is very, very dramatic. But I do think it was inspiring. And this is why I love talking about these types of things, because the whole goal is really to inspire and empower people, as I say repeatedly. And those stories do that if they can do it. So I took away from that show, it's like, if they can do it, I can do it on the slower. Maybe I only have 10 or 20 or 30 pounds to lose and they had 200 pounds to lose. So it was, I think, overall very, very helpful and inspiring to many people. And it got a lot of Americans seeing that power of lifestyle medicine, which is what we're here to talk about, right, Michael? And then what are the daily habits that you can work on in your own personal life? What steps can you take on a daily basis? You and I are going to switch gears and talk a little bit about food and actual habits on a daily basis. But I am just so fascinated by your experience with that show. And because we're here to really work on beating obesity. And my question for you is, can we do that? Can we beat obesity? I think I know your answer. I want to hear it in your words.
Well, yes, of course we can beat obesity. And just because it's difficult doesn't mean it can't be done. Now, I'm an optimist. You have to be an optimist to get into the lifestyle medicine business in the first place. But you said the word, and I said the word, obesogenic environment. And what we mean by that is, compared to 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, the human society has changed as a result of freedom and technology. And companies are free to make food products that are delicious. And it's unfortunate that so many of these delicious foods are fattening because they're so high in calories. And so just to name a few examples, Big Macs and Oreos and Doritos and all sorts of thousands and thousands of foods like this are part of daily life. And they weren't part of daily life 50 or 100 years ago because they hadn't been invented yet. Or they were luxury items that were rarely eaten. Now, for the past 30 years, most of these foods can be obtained right down the block. And so people's jobs are more sedentary and less physical, and people are busier than ever, and it's hard to find time to exercise and to cook healthy meals. And so that's what we mean by obesogenic environment. Yet at the same time, there's never been a better time for healthy eating. There's never been as many recipes available on the internet, or healthy fruits and vegetables. You can get fruits and vegetables that are gorgeous from all over the world. Again, right down the block. And if you want to buy prepared healthy meals, there's never been a better time to do that. And so people have many options for healthy eating. And although they're right next to, one aisle over from all the unhealthy food, all the healthy foods are there for the taking. And so there's never been a better time to fight the obesogenic environment. But again, coaching goes a long way. It's hard to do it by yourself. But when you put yourself in the position to work with someone who can provide that encouragement and accountability and make you stay focused on taking your health seriously, that's when the magic happens. Now, as a society, we have work to do. It's not enough. Just personal responsibility is not enough. And we need to work together as a society to help people help themselves. And so that's a whole nother topic. It's a very difficult topic and challenge. But my vision here is that government has a role, companies have a role, and we have to know one person can get this solved. We have to work together as communities and as cities and states and as a whole nation to reverse these epidemics of obesity. We have a responsibility to the future generations to leave it better than we found it. And so we need to keep that in mind as we elect politicians and as legislation comes up. And when there's a tax on soda, for example, to use that money for obesity programs or to improve school lunches, et cetera, we should keep that in mind when we're voting and choosing our elected officials.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so fascinating. I hope listeners get it, that the topic of nutrition and obesity in this country is so multifaceted. It's so complex at every level, in the schools, in the government. It's not an easy solution. And that said, this it's beyond a multidisciplinary approach, but talking about this and educating people on how decisions in every aspect of their life and in their community really can have a positive impact on this. So that said, you and I are going to continue to educate people and also show me the money. It's like, show me the good nutrition, show me how to do it in my daily life. You gave me an idea for a show that we could do, by the way, to be continued. But as we're talking, so because we have so much diabetes as well, and you have so much experience in that area. And I want to bring this up because, not to get too much into the medical side of things, I think too many people don't know what their blood sugar is, and something called hemoglobin A1C, which is how we diagnose prediabetes and diabetes. And let's say you're not even obese, but you're a little bit overweight, but you have a high elevated A1C. That is exactly the person who needs lifestyle medicine quickly, right? So I want to hear more from your side about your work with diabetes reversal and just educating everybody when they go for well visits, what to check for, how to really be on top of this and prevent diabetes. I think that that's something that we have to pay so much more attention to.
Yeah, terrific topics. So I'm very passionate about diabetes prevention and diabetes reversal. And right now, people have a 1 in 3 chance of developing type 2 diabetes in their lifetime. And in the population over 65, about a third of the people have type 2 diabetes, which is largely preventable. So obesity and type 2 diabetes go hand in hand. The main risk factor for diabetes is obesity, especially if it runs in your family. And there are people with obesity who don't have diabetes, and there are people with type 2 diabetes who aren't obese, but they're highly correlated. And that's because obesity causes insulin resistance, which makes, it's a huge risk factor for diabetes. Now, even more people have prediabetes, and 1 in 3 adults right now has prediabetes. And most of these people don't know it. And what it means is their blood sugar is already outside of the normal range, and it's a big risk factor for diabetes. And so there's simple blood tests like checking your blood sugar, or as you mentioned, the hemoglobin A1C, which gives you an average blood sugar over the previous 2 to 3 months. And many people would be shocked if they knew what their average blood sugar was like. And so my goal is to help people to recognize that when they're at risk for diabetes and to reverse it, before it becomes type 2 diabetes, or if they have type 2 diabetes, to reverse it before you get serious complications. Diabetes is the leading cause of foot amputations, vision loss, and kidney dialysis in adults. And it triples the risk of heart attack or stroke. And so that's why I went into this kind of work, is because diabetes is so preventable, and it makes such a big difference when you can prevent the complications of diabetes, that I decided that's how I'm going to have the biggest impact for my patients. And so I have a program for diabetes reversal, and I work with patients to lose weight. And by losing weight with any of many effective eating plans, it improves their average blood sugar. We get reductions in their hemoglobin A1C, which tracks very closely with reductions in complication risk. And so the way to reverse and prevent diabetes is to lose excess body fat, which again is easier said than done. But at least we have multiple eating strategies that work. And over the past 20 years, I've worked with thousands of people and helped many, many people get their diabetes into remission. Remission means that your blood sugar has gone back to normal or nearly normal without medications. And I would say about 80% of people with type 2 diabetes have the capacity to achieve remission. Now, for some people, it's just too far advanced, and no amount of weight loss is going to heal them to the point that their diabetes is in remission. But 80% of people, I would say, if they lose somewhere in the 20% or 15% of their body weight, they can achieve remission, which is a great feeling for everyone. Everyone wins when people achieve diabetes remission. And so that's my passion. And what I'd like to do is more and more work on diabetes remission and do it on a national level in the years to come.
Yay. And same with me. And you know that we're both extremely passionate about that. And that's how I got into the field of nutrition as well. And I saw it was the most gratifying thing that I could see early on as a dietitian is when you help somebody really get out of that either diabetes or prediabetes range. So true. So we continue to work on that. And I think because people don't die of diabetes, they die of the complication of diabetes. That takes me to just one question about heart disease prevention. And I had mentioned the diet matchmaking, or this concept of ultra personalizing that you work on too. And so, now we have advanced lab testing to go beyond just cholesterol and go beyond that A1C that we're talking. How do you pair it all together, knowing what advanced lab testing to do and what diet to do?
Yeah, great topic. So everyone's heard of cholesterol testing, or LDL bad cholesterol, or HDL good cholesterol, or maybe even triglycerides. But there's many, many other blood tests that people need in order to get a full picture of their risk of heart disease. And let's not forget, cardiovascular disease and heart disease is the number one killer of men and women in the United States and throughout the world. And so the blood tests really reflect the risk factor for people of any given age. And so just because a person is at age 40, for example, true that they're not at risk for heart disease in the next decade so much, but they're accumulating risk often at a rapid rate. And so we want to find people who are at risk for early heart disease and correct those risk factors early. And so you look for high cholesterol, but you look also for not enough of the good cholesterol, or inflammation in the blood vessels, or if someone has high cholesterol, why is their cholesterol high? Is it for genetic reasons, or is it because they absorb too much cholesterol from the diet, or is it because their liver makes too much cholesterol? The medications that we use or the supplements we use can be guided by the blood test results. And then also the way you eat is affecting your blood tests. And so are you eating enough healthy fats? Are you eating too much unhealthy fat? So what's your fat balance in the blood? All of these are important to check and get optimized. And very few people out there are getting those sophisticated blood tests checked and optimized. And most of these are correctable through lifestyle changes, but some require supplements or medication to correct. And then we want to choose the right medication in those people. And so we can also use the blood test to personalize the nutrition prescription. And so as our work at Tufts showed many years ago, there are many, many good eating strategies, but how do you match the person with the right eating strategy? And the blood test can go a long way toward that matchmaking process. So I've worked on that for the last 10 years. So certain people with certain blood test abnormalities respond better to some diets than others. And so even though there's not one best diet for everyone, there might be one best diet or eating strategy for you as an individual. And so we need to consider not just your food preferences and your medical conditions, but also your blood tests, your specific combination of blood test abnormalities that are correctable as we identify the right eating plan for you. And if that sounds complicated, it is. And again, another reason why coaching can make such a dramatic difference. When you get someone experienced, like a good auto mechanic, right? If you want your engine finely tuned to last forever, then you go to a really good auto mechanic who knows what they're doing, and they identify what needs fixing and what doesn't. And they tell you, they get it taken care of. And in lifestyle medicine, by way of analogy, the body heals itself, but only under the right conditions, not when you're eating the wrong foods that are making it worse. That's another plug for coaching and all the progress we've made in lifestyle medicine over the recent decades. And so I'm a big fan of the sophisticated blood tests, and I've used them in many, many patients. Over 100,000 have had personalized lifestyle prescriptions due to work that I've done in the past.
And tying it all together, that's the way that we're going. And I love hearing about that and also making people aware of that yes, it's a little complicated or maybe a little bit more complicated, the level of the testing. But I just want to caution too, a lot of tests and data collecting gadgets. And there's a lot of technology out there now, and people want to do their own tests and wear devices and collect data, but then they don't know how to interpret it. So back to our plug for coaches and the practitioner, that support from a human being, a knowledgeable healthcare practitioner is really like, you can't cut that out of the picture. You cannot cut your physician and your coach and whoever dietitian out of the picture and make your own assumptions about what works right for you. So I just kind of want to go down that avenue a little bit because I do see, right? And that's where those fad diets are the one diet fits all, or they heard about this supplement from their neighbor who does it and it works for them. And I just wanted to mention that aspect, that it really personalized means you are an individual, get your own tests and figure out that way with the help of your doctor and your coach, what works for you and how to apply it to your daily life. That's my little rant.
Absolutely. I wish more physicians were well-versed in lifestyle medicine, and many of them never got the training in nutrition that a dietitian may have. And they just don't have the time or the expertise or the comfort, or they're just busy seeing 25 patients a day and just don't have it in them to do lifestyle coaching, but patients would love that. And so I feel like we have a national shortage of lifestyle clinicians. And another reason why you and I went into this field to help fill the gap of a really important area of medicine.
Absolutely. We were talking about this too before starting the podcast, just how leveraging technology is extremely important because we're individuals. You and I both are trying to help on a broader scale, but there are things like you need that personalized approach, but things like AI now can also be used at the same time with that one-on-one coaching. You can take an app such as you've used and worked on, the Healy, and it can take your lab results and give you at least the structure of a meal plan, like the types of foods that are probably best suited for you versus somebody else. I find it so fascinating and cool, but you still, again, have to have that knowledge base behind it because it's kind of like following your GPS in the car. It doesn't always lead you in the right direction, but they're pretty darn good most of the time.
Yeah, I agree. Technology is in part our salvation and in part our undoing, right? I complained that the companies have used technology to make the food more delicious, but also more unhealthy. But at the same time, the technology has also helped the field of disease prevention in many, many ways. And I'm a big fan of logging your dietary food intake using your smartphone. It's never been easier. I've been working with several different companies that use AI to leverage the power of lifestyle change. And so there's so many apps out there. And just to name some that I've worked closely with, I've worked with a company called Healy that has a great app that's like a dietitian in your pocket and creates a personalized nutrition plan with 1 million recipes ranked according to how closely it fits your eating plan. And I've worked with Diet ID, which is a company that developed, led by Dr. David Katz. And that is a 2-minute technique to measuring the health or unhealth of your eating plan. And I've been working with other companies. One is Ahara and one is DietRx. And these are all using artificial intelligence and other sophisticated methods to create evidence-based approaches. Another company I've been working very closely with, I'd like to give a shout out, is Dr. Kim McNicholas's nonprofit called A Way to My Heart. And they are for people who are at risk of foot amputations or other complications of peripheral vascular disease. And they're big believers in lifestyle change to prevent amputations. And they are big fans of the sophisticated advanced blood testing that we talked about so that people can reverse their risk of foot amputation long before it happens. And so I'm proud to work with all these different organizations, and I'm looking to work with organizations that can make a national impact. And so technology is here to stay, and we have to embrace it and harness its power for good rather than for evil.
National and international, global impact.
Yeah, global.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I think you should be proud of yourself. It's fantastic what you're doing and sitting on all of these advisory boards and working with these tech companies, because it's that awareness of people aren't even aware of what may be, quote unquote, hidden in their food. And so you take an app that can scan it and actually analyze the quality of the diet. It's awesome. It really is, isn't it? And then like your frozen, I almost mentioned a brand. I won't, but pick any frozen pizza, an ultra processed food. Okay. Right. And then you scan it, you find out exactly why it's so unhealthy for you. And then that helps people make healthier decisions. So yes, I'm a huge fan of using technology to really help people understand diet quality. I say this in most of my coaching and counseling, that quality of calories matters most. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, because you also brought up younger generations, and we talk about like, where does one start? And you and I both know in the world of culinary medicine and lifestyle medicine, that whole foods matter. Getting away from ultra processed foods. And you mentioned that about the Doritos and what else? A Big Mac Doritos. And you mentioned something else. Oreos. Yeah. Yeah. The 100-calorie snack packs of foods. So you and I both have kids. We have teenagers, and they're now making their own decisions. And I know that that's an area too, that we all need to really take a serious look at the next generations. They're the health in the future. And it's time to really help them make these healthier choices. And there's a lot of childhood obesity. But in any case, I kind of just want your thoughts around that. Like, how do you manage balancing kids being independent and making their own decisions and seeing them make bad choices versus having them make healthy choices? What do you do in your own home with that?
Yeah, so I have 3 teenagers, and like most parents, my wife and I, we struggle, and it's a challenge.
It is.
You have to model healthy behaviors, and you can only force your children to do so much. And as they grow older, they have to make their own decisions. And so it's a big issue for parents, especially of teenagers. And so all of our teenagers saw my wife and I modeling healthy behaviors. They saw that each of us has the ability to cook healthy meals. We've taught each of them how to make certain recipes of foods that they like. They saw us modeling making time to do healthy cooking and to exercise daily. our children were part of sports teams. And they also saw my wife and I participate in giving back to the community and doing volunteer work. So we would do volunteer work as a family that included working at food pantries or cooking healthy meals for the homeless on occasions and other ways of making a difference in society. And so I think that the best you can do as parents is make sure your kids can cook, make it a priority that they learn how to cook and make it fun for them, that they have to make exercise a priority and find ways to be active that are appealing to them, and that they have a sense of paying it forward, and that the decisions they make have an impact on others, and that they can become role models and to give back to society. So that's easier said than done, but that's sort of my prescription for what parents of teens, but eventually they're their own people and you only have so much control and you have to love them anyway, no matter what they do. So Susan, I would love to compare that to your own viewpoints. And I want to thank you for creating your cookbook, which I have in my household and use to make healthy meals in our household.
Thank you. Oh, that so honors me. I'm so happy to hear that. And everything.
Trader Joe's.
Lighten up. Jinx. Because we all need to really take a lighter attitude towards it, essentially. So I love my title, Lighten Up, and things are too stressful in life. And I talk about the 4 pillars and you just touched on it. The exercise is really, really key factor for everybody. We've all got to move more. It helps us manage stress, does make you hungrier. And I think kids are more likely to eat better if they're active. So if they come in and you've cooked a healthy, balanced meal with the vegetables, they're not going to turn their noses up at it because they're so hungry. So number one with kids, right? Like keep them active, keep them moving. That makes them more likely to eat the healthy food if it's in the home, and getting kids cooking. I'm so passionate about that. I was just signing up my youngest son for his classes for next year, and one of his electives could be cooking, and he wanted art instead of cooking. And then I compromised. I said, sure, because I think it's such a life skill that all kids need is cooking. And then I said, you know what, you get that in the home. Okay. So you take art and then you can cook here in the home. And he can actually, I love to say this. He's 11 and he can turn on the gas stove and fry his eggs and make pasta and do things. And that's really, really important. So getting them involved is just a huge priority, and it's fun and talking about the food. And we have more conversations now in my house about nutrition because as these teenagers want to build muscle and be healthy and all of that, like they get it now. And so it's kind of cool how things change over time and the conversations that we do have around mealtime. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes it's frustrating, but I love what you said about paying it forward too and getting them thinking in those terms as well. That was beautiful. The way you said it was really fantastic. But thank you for giving me a shout out for my cookbook, because I do cook most days and it is important to me. And I think that if the more that people can make simple cooking on a daily basis doable, the better off they will be and for their families. Instead of ordering the pizza or stopping at for quick and easy calories that are so accessible. And that's really true. All of these fast food restaurants and processed food, it's everywhere, isn't it? And I think it's just become a habit because it is so easy. And the best thing that somebody can do is start to prepare more of their own meals.
Absolutely. Agree 100%. I like all foods. I like the way food tastes. And that's part of why I was attracted to nutrition. But I like these unhealthy food, the taste of these unhealthy foods that I mentioned. But I also like fruits and vegetables and healthy proteins and fish and shellfish. And so if you have healthy, tasty options available, that's how you can outcompete all the unhealthy food options. And so I don't have good willpower, but I can plan ahead. And so when I have leftovers that are healthy, or when I set aside the time to cook healthily, or make sure that I get to the grocery store frequently enough so I have the right ingredients and recipes in mind. So I'm organized, and that offsets my personal challenges with willpower. And so you don't need to just have good willpower in order to keep yourself healthy. It mainly comes down to planning in advance and having an organized system.
Mm-hmm. That's very helpful. I completely agree. It's not like you and I aren't human too. We have the same cravings and and like food, and it's tempting. It's out there. So there's the good calories, the bad calories, quality of calories matters. I have a cute story I have to share since you asked me, it occurred to me after answering that. One of my boys, we had an argument one time over onions. It sounds ridiculous, but he doesn't like onions. And I put them in a lot of food. So, but my family loves my homemade. It's a recipe that's not in Lighten Up. It's in my other cookbook for a homemade chicken pot pie. And so I gave him the recipe, and he claims it as his own, and he makes the most delicious homemade chicken pot pie. But the point is, I buy the organic chicken. I have the local from my farm box, carrots and fennel and whatever that actually goes in it, an organic chicken broth. And the herbs he puts in fresh thyme. I love seeing my teenage son make this amazing chicken pot pie and calling it his own.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing it.
Sure. It's fun. And I hope that helps people too, because you do the best you can on a daily basis. And some days are just better and easier than others, or weeks and all of that when you're prepared. You and I know it's a Friday as we're recording this. We're both a lot more relaxed and looking for a relaxing weekend. And that's when most people take the time to buy the food for the week. That really needs to be part of the week at some point, because if you plan but don't buy the food and don't have that healthy food on hand, then when you're met by whatever packaged food or fast food, it is hard to resist, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So I know we've been chatting a while, lots of different topics around this, and we could continue and we will continue. I do know that, Michael, because we are on our mission together. You and I are very, very passionate about this, and there's still so much work to be done. But I would love to have you back. And for listeners out there, I just want to ask you, how and where would you want them to find out more about you?
Oh, please check out my website at michaeldansingermd.com. Also, diabetesreversalpartners.com.
Nice. And I will say, I love your website. And I don't just say that to everybody. So do check out Michael's website, michaeldansingermd.com. And is there any one final takeaway you'd like to leave listeners with today?
So I'm an optimist because I have seen so many people leverage the power of nutrition and healthy eating and getting enough sleep and de-stressing. And it makes a world of difference. And it's hard. Many people feel stuck. And the way to get out of that is to create a team. Surround yourself with people who are positive and encouraging, who believe in you. And then you find yourself in a self-perpetuating cycle. And so when things are going well, when you're sleeping well and you have energy, and when you're taking time to make healthy meals, and then you feel lighter on your feet because you're losing weight, and then you can exercise more, and then your thinking is more clear, and then you're more organized, and it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. And then that's how, by taking care of yourself, you can help others. And so I'm an optimist because the power of lifestyle is there for all of us. If you have a mind and a body, you can leverage the power of lifestyle change, which makes a difference for yourself and for the others that you care about. So I'll leave us with that parting thought.
That's it. That nails it. That was perfect. So I do have one final question for you today that I do ask of all of my guests. And that is, what is one thing you are grateful for today?
Oh, well, I'm grateful to know you and to have the opportunity to connect with you. And I'm grateful for the people listening to this who, if you've listened to this point in the podcast, you're in it to win it. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to have the opportunity to impact you. So that's what I'm grateful for at this moment.
I am too. We are in it to win it. And thank you for those who do stay with us to the bitter end. There's a big prize in there. Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. This was wonderful. And we will keep going on this passion. Thank you for your passion and dedication. And till the next time, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to join me and listen to this episode. You can find more information and subscribe to the Sense of Wellness podcast on our website at ccphp.net/sens. This show is brought to you by Castle Connolly Private Health Partners, a concierge medicine organization that partners with and supports exceptional physicians to deliver an unrivaled experience of comprehensive, collaborative, and attentive care for a preventative approach on health and optimal well-being for members. Be sure to listen in next time to the Sense of Wellness podcast, and remember, simple daily habits matter most.